You know, coming from the projects in the Bronx all the way to my own private pool in Chiang Mai, Thailand, it's pretty sweet. What's up, YouTube? My name is Kenny Soto, and I am shooting this video from Chiang Mai, Thailand. Today, I wanted to talk about how did I get the opportunity to become a remote worker or digital nomad, and what exactly did I do to prepare myself for the journey and for long-term travel. The first step that I took was managing my fear, figuring out what was I so afraid of, why was I so hesitant towards the idea of long-term travel. The idea was first proposed to me by my girlfriend, Mark Marie. She told me that she was tired of working the 9-to-5 grind and that both of us were too young to stick to a specific routine, and we needed to find a way to enjoy our time outside of home. Both of us were English teachers in China, and we felt like we were limiting ourselves by just staying in one specific spot. So what we did was we decided to sit down and write about what would be our biggest worst case scenario. The worst case scenario that would be the end all be all, that would make it so that this trip was a failure. This exercise was something I learned from Tim Ferriss, who has a TED Talk about fear setting and how it's more important than goal setting because it allows you to really identify your fears and understand that they are solvable. Even if they happen, things will be okay. I'm someone who personally likes routine because it brings stability. Stability for me means I know what's happening each and every single day and I can plan accordingly. I like making sure that my calendar is set for months ahead of time, and that can sometimes be a burden. It can make it so that I'm very rigid. So I had to figure out how to set myself up for the uncertainty that this trip was going to bring, and this exercise helped me realize that even if the worst case scenario were to happen, which in this case would be I moved back home or I moved to South Africa with my girlfriend, that would be completely fine because I can always just start this trip over again after 2 months of saving. Once I realized what my fears were, everything seemed to work and set itself up for success. And I think that one of the things that you can do if you're thinking about long-term travel or trying to make a big decision is instead of thinking about the goal that you have, think about what is the worst case scenario. And if it were to happen, could you try again? Because most worst case scenarios, most biggest fears aren't fatal. After figuring out what my fears were and understanding that they weren't that bad, the next step was just figuring out the nitty-gritty finances. How was I going to fund everything? The best part about this trip is that I'm not doing it alone. Because I am doing it with my partner, my girlfriend, things are easier. Most of our expenses are split into two. And the most important expense is just making sure that I have money for a boat ride, a train ticket, or airfare for the next trip because of my visa and making sure that in each country I'm in, I can actually stay there for as long as humanly possible, which is usually 30 days. So if you want to do long-term travel, my recommendation just to have ease of mind and make sure that your bases are covered is have 2 to 3 months of your income saved. That way, when you actually fly out, you don't need to worry about, oh, do I have enough money for the month? Can I actually survive in this country? And if I want to go back, do I have the money and resources available to do so? After I figured out what my fears were and what my financial plan was going to be, making sure that it made sense, and I consulted with my girlfriend because I'm part of a team. It's not just me, myself, and I had to then figure out what kind of homework and research can I do? Because I'm not the first person doing this, so I don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are other people out there that have been doing this for years, and I can learn from them by reading books like The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, or looking at YouTube videos by Sorella Moore or Lost LeBlanc, and just making sure that I can gain insights from their lifestyle and what advice they have. Because the best thing about the internet is that if I have a question, I can just search whatever it may be, which could be ranging from what is the best way to pack for long-term travel, or top 10 scams in the country that I'm going to be living in, so that way I'm not duped by the local shady people. Shady people. Shady people. And doing that homework helped prepare me to know what to expect. Things that I didn't really even know were going to be issues, such as overwork or boredom, which are the two primary things that I'm dealing with right now. Overwork in the sense of, just because I have my own set schedule that I can choose doesn't mean I should be working every single hour on the hour, working for work's sake, which is something that Tim Ferriss writes about in the 4-Hour Work Week, and something that we should, as long-term travelers, focus on not doing. Not working 24/7. It's not good for the mind. And another aspect of long-term travel, which is boredom. Now, boredom in particular is something that I've been struggling with even when I was back home in the States and when I was working as a teacher in China. I get bored very easily, so I have to figure out how to enjoy it now, because it's gonna happen even more so than it used to. A lot of long-term travelers, like Rolf Potts, for example, talk about how boredom can actually be a good thing during long-term travel, because then it usually leads to opportunities of discovering the place that you are in and discovering more about the people. The next part, and the hardest part really, is making sure that if you want to have an income while traveling, you have to figure out how to get the work. Now, this in particular took the majority of the time for the preparation. I believe we took about 2 months in total to get the necessary streams of income. Now, depending on the country and region you're going to be in will determine how much money you actually need on a monthly basis. If you're in Africa or in Europe, you're gonna need more money than if you were in South America or in Asia. For me, I currently work as a copywriter and as an online teacher, but there are more ways of making an income. You can be a coder, a graphic designer, virtual assistant, and there's all other kinds of online work. But one of the traps that you'll find yourself in is getting multiple streams of income, multiple jobs, but not knowing how to manage your time. So what I would recommend is starting off slowly, getting at least 2 jobs before actually leaving, and then getting more jobs as you go throughout your long-term travel, making sure that you're managing both having fun and work. Because if you are traveling a lot and all you're doing is working 6 days a week, then are you really traveling, or are you just finding different offices to work in? And finally, the last step to preparing for this trip was just making sure that I prioritize fun over anything else. The whole point of this trip is to make sure that I get meaningful experiences from it and that it helps me grow. But that's only gonna happen if I seek fun, enjoyment, and not find it as a mission that needs to be accomplished day in and day out. Obviously, there's a lot of work that comes into preparing for this and making sure that I can sustain the trip for as long as possible. At the end of the day, the simple fact that this trip started and that I'm in Thailand, in a place that I've never been to, in this awesome pool that I get to experience for a month until the next country, means that I've already succeeded. At the end of the day, are things really that bad? Do I really need to stress about what's gonna happen tomorrow or the next month, or how am I gonna look for the next job? Not necessarily, because I've done the homework and there's only so much I can actually prepare for when it comes to long-term travel. If you've liked this video, hit the subscribe button below, hit the notification bell, and submit a comment as well. I'm trying to figure out how to provide more value to my audience, as well as making sure that if you are interested in long-term travel and becoming a digital nomad, and you want first-hand experience from someone who's literally just starting his own journey, definitely send me a message. Definitely connect with me on social media, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. And again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and hope to see you soon.